Good morning and welcome to Mystical Teachings from the Tanya. Rabbi Ronnie Klein coming to you from Chabad Zuch and Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We welcome this morning, as we do every morning, people around the world that are on Facebook, that are on Clubhouse. Thank you all for joining. We have Simcha from Florida, and Linda and Denise are with us in New York. Joe and also in Florida. Irina in Colorado. Anna is with us in Hungary. Good afternoon to you. John in North Carolina. Cindy in Florida. Susan in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Chris is in Mexico with us, and Tony in Costa Rica. And Gina in Calgary. We have Vilma is with us, co-hosting on Clubhouse. Thank you, Vilma, as always. Noah, thank you for joining. Margot and Tracy, Kevin, and thank you all for being here. Let us begin. We are continuing, as we do on a daily basis, the thought of what it means to make a dwelling place in this low world. The natural instinct of a human being is that if they want something divine, they need to remove themselves from this world. Because this world is coarse, this world has a lot of negativity in it. As the sages say, it is a place that evildoers have success. Why? Because the presence of God is not palpable, is not real. And the presence of materiality is very real. The presence of my ego is very real. And to be able to overcome that is what we're talking about. To be able to transform oneself and not to be motivated by material things as an end in themselves, but as a means to an end, as the needs of my body and animal vital soul as a means to an end rather than an end in themselves. What is an end in itself? Goodness, godliness, that's an end in itself. A mitzvah, that's an end in itself. So to create this dwelling place in this world for the divine, for God. So as we've spoken about previously, it's not about fighting the negativity of this world. It's not about escaping it, fight or flight, which is the human response to challenges and difficulties. But it's to live your life the way you're supposed to live your life. Live your life of engaging in this world, in the material world, but taking the good that's in there and elevating it to the divine and associating to the divine. So in today's class, the Alter Rebbe takes this and from the teachings of the sages and brings out a phenomenal idea. We all know that Tzedakah, charity, is an amazing and important mitzvah. But our sages, in an unqualified manner, speak about it in the highest regard, that it's equal to all other mitzvahs. Equal to all other mitzvahs. In the Talmud, the Jerusalem Talmud, when it refers to charity, to tzedakah, how does it refer to it? The commandment. It's the mitzvah. Without clarifying which mitzvah it is, when it says the mitzvah, there's only one mitzvah. There's only one good thing you can do, charity. Now we're not going to get into all of the laws of this and so on. We're going to get into understanding the power of it, what's its mystical dimension, that it is so unequivocally greater than anything and everything else, that it is the mitzvah. It is equal to all of the other mitzvahs altogether. That's a powerful statement. In a sense, you could say that person who is so charitable, so giving, in a way, they've got it all. in a certain respect. How is that? How do we understand that? So the Alter Rebbe explains, and now, by the way, he's going to give two basic points over here. However, in the fourth part of Tanya, which is letters that he writes to the communities in his lifetime about different issues, and a lot of the letters are about tzedakah, about charity. And there's so many different angles, so many different mystical ways to appreciate and understand. Here we're going to go into the focus of what we're learning about here. The learning over here is about how to take my negative side, my darkness, right? That darkness is that I have a body that only feels its own hunger pangs, a body that only feels its comfort. My body can't feel your hunger. It cannot feel your discomfort. My soul can, but not my body, right? So in that sense, it's a negative force. And if we are following the dictates of our body, then we're always going to be pleasure-seeking for ourselves, right? And even our animal soul or vital soul is also self-directed and seeking what's good for me. So we have this challenge dealing with that, with our godly soul that should inspire and to elevate through the act of a mitzvah to connect to God and to bring divine light into our lives and into the world around us. That is the focus over here. That's the challenge. How to take from the negative force of the world, which is materialism, right, by its nature, to harness it and to make it connected to the divine. Take the negative force from within me, harness it, and connect it to the divine. Not to escape from it, not to fight it, but to harness it, to connect it to the divine. So, every time we do a mitzvah, we're in effect doing that. But specifically, the act of charity. Why specifically the act of charity? That you're absorbed in the divine light of God, like no other mitzvah. Because the act of being charitable engages our vital soul, animal soul, our body, more than any other command. What does that mean? Very simple. In the act of putting on tefillin, for example, or lighting Shabbos candles, Shabbat candles, all you're doing is taking your arm and wrapping your arm. All you're doing, it's a wonderful, enormous mitzvah. But the action engaged in it, that I'm involving my body and my vital soul, is minimal. It's just wrapping my arm, or it's just extending my hand and lighting a candle. There isn't a great engagement of my physical reality in that. But that's not the case when it comes to making money and then giving it away. Especially, when the Alter Rebbe was very much into Chassidim and people being agrarian, to living on the land and getting close to Mother Nature, tilling the soil, having control of your own destiny in that, in a certain respect, and especially back in the day in the powers that be, but engaging, and that was hard work. That was blood, sweat, and tears, as they say, of an engagement to make a livelihood, to make money. So, in other words, there's such a great engagement of the physical being, and now what are you doing with that? You're giving it away. You're giving it away to someone else who's in need. So the Alter Rebbe says that's a greater engagement of my physical material reality than any other kind of mitzvah that I do. And therefore, in that respect, it is greater than any other mitzvah, because I'm transforming more of my animal soul and my physical body that was engaged in making that money, and now giving some of that away. That's one point. And then the Alter Rebbe says, even if you didn't engage hard, and especially today, we sit by a computer. Are we really working like tilling the soil back in the day? Are we working in that manner? Not at all, right? And especially what if you won the lottery or you have an inheritance, um, you have the money, and you didn't work hard for it. So where is the engagement of the transformation of all that hard blood, sweat, and tears? It's not there. Yet the Alter Rebbe says an amazing idea. With that money, I could use it for self-perpetuating purposes of, my sustenance, my pleasure. I could be using it for that, and I choose to give it to charity. Again, whatever. We're not talking about the amounts here and so on. It's the concept, right? You're supposed to give not more than 20% of your net earnings to charity, but it's the concept over here that from this livelihood that I could purchase sustenance, sustain my life, my body, my needs, my pleasure, and I'm giving that away. That is, again, the greatest, as the sages teach us, act of transforming oneself. And this is why, and it's a very short class today, that the Alter Rebbe says, the sages have said in the Talmud that tzedakah, charity, will hasten the messianic redemption, the coming of Mashiach. Because the whole idea, as we've been learning, is the messianic redemption is about transforming a world of darkness into a world of divine light. Where do we do that in particular more than any other place? Through tzedakah, being charitable. That's the teachings for today. I just want to add some thoughts on that, further thoughts. And please open it up for questions, and whoever has what to make a comment or question, please add to the discussion. I know now that also. Please share that. I saw myself from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, from the Rebbe, whatever instance that he would be able to promote the act of giving, he promoted it. Every Sunday giving out dollars, thousands of dollars to thousands of people, making them a partner with him in the act of giving, making them an emissary to go and be charitable. Now, there's so many other angles to this that we will learn, later on about. But the point of over here, and in tomorrow's class, we're actually going to get a counter argument. So we're going to wait for that counter argument tomorrow, which will come from the idea of learning Torah, which we're doing now. But in any case, the point being over here is Judaism's engagement in a physical world is to transform the materiality of the world, to engage in it in a manner that there is, although, money corrupts, power corrupts, the view of this is that it is a tool that has a element of goodness in there that we can truly transform the world. As the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe called money manure. Whoa, what does that mean? Manure? Manure, yeah. Why? Because manure on its own stinks. It smells to high heaven, or high hell, whatever you want to call it, right? It stinks. However, when you take manure and you put it to your vegetable garden, it makes things grow and blossoms things in a beautiful way. Same thing as money. Money as an end in itself, as it on its own, it stinks. But when you take that money and you allow it to make something blossom by giving to those in need, to an organization that is helping others spiritually, materially, whatever, to change this world for good, to bring redemption to a person into this world, then you've made something blossom, and then it's beautiful. What a way to be able to have a duality, the dichotomy over here in the concept of money, right? That it stinks. It's manure. But yet, boy, could it make beautiful things grow and make things happen that are changing the world for good. Healthy way to look at it, right? And as a result, what we can make things grow, and that's outside of us, that point of the manure, right? On how we can make things in the world grow. What we spoke about here is how we are transformative, because, you know, money is valuable, and it's important to us. It's sustenance, and it's even beyond that, it's power. And here what we're taking is that which is from the human condition, conditioned us to such a degree that it makes me feel good about me, and it gives me pleasure. It gives me, yielding power, and so on. And what am I doing? Transforming all of that human condition, which is of the animal soul and the body, that negativity, the manure of me, I guess, and now planting something that is going to transform in me, allowing the divine connection. Not only is the divine connection with my divine soul, and that's the point over here, there's a divine connection here in my natural animal instinct and body, that it too is bound up now because it's been transformed by the fact that I worked hard for it, or I could have used it for my sustenance, bound up with the divine light of the Ein Sof, of God himself. Any questions, any comments? Please, let's have some conversation over here. Vilma, please. Anything you have what to share, or anybody else? Okay. Yehuda, would you like to share something?
Sure. So I love listening into this particular room. I in general love learning Tanya, and I work in the nonprofit sector, and particularly in an organization focused on alleviating poverty.
Oh.
And for many years, even so, I'm Baal Tshuva, and before I became religious, I was already a social worker for several years, working in homeless services. And so I always sort of, until recent years, thought about kind of the two worlds of my life, this world of like my passion around my work, and this world of my spiritual development and engagement. And I knew that, like, in an abstract way, they were connected to each other. But the ideas that you shared from the Alter Rebbe, and even from the Frierdiker Rebbe around the power of how we use money, really changed my thinking about how I view what I do day to day. So they're really powerful ideas to me, and I just wanted to say thank you for drawing more attention to tzedakah being the mitzvah.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. And especially in the work that you do, how important that is. So, the angle that we took today was not about the recipient, right? It's not what you did for the person in need. It's about the power of tzedakah, of charity, in your reality, in your being, which is powerful.
Yeah, I actually have something to share about that, which is kind of funny. And so, obviously, the reason I got involved in this work was really about, the impact of the work on others. And that's a big part of what drives me ongoing. And there is something kind of ironically selfish about thinking about tzedakah from the perception of what it does for you spiritually. But, I didn't really realize that until recently. I was in another room on Clubhouse with a close friend of mine was in the room with me. who works in philanthropy. He works in a foundation, and he heard me say that, you know, one of the things that I love about what I do isn't just what we do for the people that we serve, but what we do for the people who give, in regards to the impact that it has on their soul to engage with what we do. And he interrupted me and said, I hope I heard you wrong, but it sounded like what you were saying is that people should give charity for themselves. People should give charity because of the way that it sort of engaged. I don't remember exactly which version of the mystical interpretation of Tzedakah was explained to him. I think I was talking about the way that it sort of engages our Yetzer Hara, the way that it forces us to take something that we feel, and it's even just like the act of doing it, right? Like when we do it, the fact that it's uncomfortable, the more that we do, the more uncomfortable it is in some ways that impact, right? You can actually tangibly, viscerally feel the impact on your Yetzer Hara when you give, right?
Right.
And I made a comment about that, and he said, I hope I heard you wrong. And I've been thinking about it since then, and what I realized is the reason why that feels wrong is because it's kind of rooted in and this person is an Orthodox Jew who works in philanthropy, but the reason I think that idea feels wrong is because it's sort of rooted in the way that we sort of see the world in Gullus, the way that we see the world in exile, where those two things are two different things, right? So we think of it as we can give in order to help the recipient, we can give in order to uplift our soul, and those are two separate ideas, and one benefits me and one benefits the other person. But I do think that at a certain higher level that isn't separate. And that's kind of what I've come to.
Totally. Totally correct what you're saying. There, on a higher level, there isn't a separation, not in those ideas at all. One could see it as that, but that would be a mistake. In other words, there's so many different angles to tzedakah, and the fact that through it I'm bound up with God in a much more profound and deeper way is a truth. And if that's a truth, an essential truth, the fact that I'm aware of it and that motivates me because I want to be connected, that's beautiful. That's wonderful. And to be connected in this very profound way, as you know, the Alter Rebbe quoting from the sages in the Talmud, that it's keneged kulam, it's equal to all other mitzvahs, and it's mitzvah stam. It's the the unequivocal the mitzvah, and having that awareness isn't making it the act any less. On the contrary, it's first of all, it's a great motivator, and secondly, it makes it much more real because it is a truth. So even if you weren't aware of that, are you not in fact? Is that not in fact what's happening? I mean, like you said, especially if you give something that's a little beyond your comfort zone, so you really feel, ooh, I could have had a nicer vacation, Here, I could have had a nicer vacation. I mean, maybe now in COVID, we're not thinking in those terms, but I could have had something nicer for me, right? I was thinking about that, and now I'm giving this away. It might even diminish a little bit on that, and I'm still giving. So we sense that, but because the connection is greater than what I'm losing, so to speak, in giving. Sorry, go ahead, Yehuda.
All I was going to say is, you're right. It's still there whether we're aware of it or not. And in fact, you might be able to make the argument that it's even more there if you're not aware of it. But I don't think that being aware of it lowers it. I think being aware of it is sort of marketing for it, right? It's like saying that tzedakah is the mitzvah and drawing people's attention to it is a way to lead to more tzedakah. And the bottom line, I think you were sort of saying, the bottom line is even if you realize that and that drives you to take the act, you still feel the act. Your Yetzer Hara still
right
is impacted by that. And even if your Yetzer Hara is the one driving you to do it because your Yetzer Hara is the one going, oh, I want to be closer to God, I want to be special, even if that's where it's coming from because you hear that it's for your benefit somehow, then you're engaging your Yetzer Hara on even another level, right? Now you've both engaged your Yetzer Hara in giving, and you've engaged your Yetzer Hara in thinking about trying to connect to God, even if it's not exactly the most pure line of thinking.
Right. Very good. Thank you for that. Denise online on Facebook says, "Mustn't we realize that it's not truly our money, but only Hashem's? And with that in mind, we do that which He wants us to do, and then we'll hasten the coming of Mashiach." So, absolutely, that is a recognition that we need to have, that anything that we own is really not ours. As the famous story with Baron Rothschild with Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria asked Baron Rothschild, what is your worth? He was a very wealthy man and a very devout Jew. So he made a calculation, and he, I forget the number that he said, whatever the number was. He says, Baron Rothschild, you take me for a fool. You're worth much more than that. How is it that you would lie to me? So he responded, I did not lie to you. You asked me what my worth is. My worth is not what I own, because what I own ultimately could be here today and gone tomorrow. In other words, I don't really even own it when I have it, because God gave it to me today. Tomorrow it could be completely gone. So in reality, I don't really own it. It belongs to God ultimately. But what I do own and what my worth is what I gave. And the amount that I gave you is the amount of charity I gave this past year. That's what I'm worth, because that can never be taken away from me. That I gave. Which is a beautiful story, obviously. And that's another dimension to tzedakah, to charity, that was another angle. Again, what we're talking about over here is a very definitive line about what charity is, about the transformation that it creates within me and the materiality that I have. That transformation of the human condition that is concealing on a divine truth, and therefore we see money as an end in itself, and we're motivated by it, and transforming the fact that I could use it as an end for me, and I worked for it, and I can spend it for me, and now what I'm doing is giving it away. Well, that's a real, transformation of the animal soul, the body and its desires, to transform it into a connection with the divine. Yes. Okay. Any Vilma or anybody else have a question or a comment? Anybody want to share anything? Thank you, Yehuda, for that. That was beautiful. All right. Okay, let me just see if I have anything else online here. What happens, Simcha asks, if, to a person that is always giving but never learned how to receive? How to receive? I mean, how to take? I'm not clear on what you're meaning, Simcha. How to receive charity? How to receive kindness? Some people have a challenge in how to be able to. Yeah, I'm not clear on the question.
Rabbi, can
yes.
you hear me?
Go ahead, Vilma. Yes.
I was having mic issues for some reason. I had to come back.
Oh, okay. Everything is okay now?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess it's glitchy. So I was going to ask about this connection, about the giving. So I understand that, the toil and the effort and all the physical nature that is engaged in making a living and working, and ultimately that the tool the money is being used for something holy to give, because what we give in this world really is what is long lasting.
Right.
Long after we're gone, it's only the giving and all the goodness and all that we did that stays here.
Right.
And that transforms things. But the connection itself, isn't the connection not just with God, but with the people that, or the things, or whatever it is the money is used to give to? So isn't there like
Oh,
a
absolutely.
connection that makes everything like one, united?
Yes, that's another element. As I mentioned earlier, perhaps you got cut out on that, is later on in Tanya teachings, the Alter Rebbe will speak about various dimensions of charity, of tzedakah, and because there's so many different angles. Here, it's a very specific notion about what it means transformation of me and my materiality, which creates that transformation of darkness to light, of making a dwelling place in a dark place, and to transform it into a dwelling place for the divine, for God. So that was the angle here. But absolutely, right, one of the things it speaks about at tzedakah is peace, that it creates peace, right? Peace between people. It brings harmony as a result of this. There's a lot more to discuss about this. There's actually, I would like to, I can't deal with this now, but I'm going to deal with it another time. And what, I'm just going to throw it out there, but I'm not going to deal with it now because we're going to have another opportunity. Hitler, Yamach Shemai, Hitler, may his name be obliterated, said there are only two nations in the world, the Germans and the Jews. Which one will prevail? And I'm leaving it at that just to let you know that the whole idea of, or the basis of it, is this idea of tzedakah, of charity, is the foundation of this concept. More on it at another point that will deal with this, and to understand the distinction and how this is, we take it for granted, many of, the idea of being charitable, but it's something that needs further understanding and elucidation, and understanding the novelty of it that comes from Judaism, from the Torah. But we will continue with that at another point. All right.
Thank you, and I encourage you and everyone to follow Ronnie. His class is at 8:30 a.m.
8:30
Central Standard
Time,
and 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard every day.
Thank you, Vilma. Yes, so if you follow, then you'll get the ping. And if when you follow, you can also, by the bell, put always, so then you'll always get the ping. And then we can share together much more. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a wonderful and great day. Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Folks, God bless you all. Amazing.